Many of you know that I was 15 years old when God found me, and only 16 when I started ministry. What I've never shared publicly is the day I went from being saved to serving Him in just 1 year. From a kid born with asthma, rickets, and a huge public confidence issue to full-time ministry. When I was in my teens, I had this group of Zimbabwean friends who all came to the Lord through a house fellowship my twin brother and I had set up. We were young, but a small fellowship of Zimbabweans gathering to pray in my parents' garage conversion fast became a large community of Jesus-loving South Entonians from all races, colors, and backgrounds from all over Essex. One day, I was in the house of one of my closest friends called Crispin. He was a humongous guy with an even bigger heart. We were in his house talking about Jesus. At that time, I wasn't the greatest preacher by a long stretch of the imagination, but we loved God, and we were just talking about how awesome He is. And that's when it happened. For the first time ever, I understood the cross, not just the religious message. I mean, God literally opened my eyes to see exactly why Jesus died for me. As I'm sharing this with my friend Crispin, I'm literally having this out-of-body experience where I'm mentally taking notes whilst I'm talking to him. I don't think he knew at the time that whilst I was sharing, I was just as amazed at what was coming out my mouth as he was, and I was hearing it for the first time too. All of a sudden, a power I never felt before just swept into that living room. It's like, almost like that feeling you get when you're listening to old Mariah Carey and she hits that note that makes all your hair stand on end, only this time my hair's just never relaxed. We both just hit the floor and I was knocked out cold. I don't remember much after that because all of a sudden I was shot up through the ceiling, through the sky, through the stars, and I fell upwards and I landed on this floor like wow. And I look up and I'm not in Crispin's house anymore. I'm in this huge hall of just pure light. There were people from every nation, every color, every tribe, each one singing, chanting, and dressed in their native country colors. There was a huge banqueting table that disappeared into the distance of this hall of brilliant light. Millions of people talking till your eardrums were vibrating under the torrent of their voices. I knew I was in heaven and that we were at the Lord's Supper. One of the butlers came and helped me find my chair, and there was food just pouring out of the kitchen. So much so that when food bowls were empty, butlers would just come and fill the bowls just as quickly as they were empty. I was amazed at the number of people, the joy, the exuberance, the excellence. And I didn't know how long I would be there, so I ate no food. I drank nothing. In haste, I motioned to the man on my right and I said, "Excuse me, have you seen Jesus?" I was frantic to find him because for some reason I knew in myself that wherever I was, I may not be there for a long time. I remember looking in the center of the table, thinking to myself that, you know, those disciples said, "Can we sit at your right hand and your left hand at your supper?" So maybe he's in the middle somewhere, and I could not find him. The man said to me, "I don't know where he is," and he just continued to eat. I asked one of the butlers, "Excuse me, have you seen him? I'm looking for Jesus." Before the words could leave my mouth, somebody tapped me and they said, "Are you looking for Jesus?" I said, "Yes." He said, "He's over there." He pointed at the kitchen, and all of a sudden, out comes this butler, dressed like all the other ones, with food on a tray. He carries it to the table. He then walks up to me. The moment he approaches me, his stained clothing becomes white and his face becomes pure, brilliant light. So pure, I couldn't even look at him. I felt deeply uncomfortable. Not because of the brilliance of the light that was coming from him, but that I was sitting at the table and the master of the ceremony was serving me food. He was always there, but I just never thought to look in the kitchen because it's the last place I was expecting him to be. He grabbed me, just put my teenage face like a vice in his hands, like a father does to his child. And I just remember seeing these beautiful brown eyes looking right into my soul. And he said, "Son, do you see what I'm doing?" I stammered and I said, "Yes, Lord, I see." With a tear in his eye, conviction in his voice, he looked right into my eyes and he said, "Go back and do that for my people." He pushed my head back and then I opened my eyes. The next thing I knew, I was on the floor and I saw this big guy standing over me. It was Crispin, my friend. I completely lost all track of time. He just looked over me and said, "Dude, what happened? You were out for ages." Crispin, I just saw Jesus dressed as a butler serving me food. He looked at me like I'd hit my head on the coffee table on my way down. I sat up completely weak, like I had traveled to the other side of the world. He helped me to a chair and I grabbed my Bible. My fingers caught in between a page as I reached for it. I just felt this deep need to look at the page it had landed on. It was like there was a voice telling me, just look at it, look at it. So as when I sat down, I flipped over the page and right there, this scripture just popped out of the page and I screamed and I jumped out of my chair and I just remember my eyes being filled with tears, and Crispin was like, "Gosh, must have been a hard fall." I read that scripture and it said this: "It will be good for those servants whose master finds them watching when he comes. Truly I tell you, he will dress himself to serve. He will have them recline at his table and will come and wait on them." That's when I knew that I had gone to heaven. The greatest mastery is not mastering the prophetic or the pastoral. It's mastering service. I learned more in that one encounter than in any Bible seminary. You can't unsee Jesus dressed as a butler serving you food. There are moments that change your life forever, and that day, a 16-year-old boy met his master, still serving after the cross, just like he served before the cross. When people ask me, "What's my calling? You're a prophet, prophesy to me." I simply say, you are called to live the Christian life. That means Before you're a prophet, pastor, teacher, evangelist, Christian businessman, or a politician, you're a servant. A servant doesn't ask for a job description. They see a need and they serve. Everything else is just a supernatural grace there to help you serve God naturally. When you understand service, you'll understand calling, because life itself is constantly calling out for servants. So how did I go from being saved at 15 to serving all over the world at 16? I saw Jesus dressed as a butler serving me food.